What's up, everyone? This is StoryHive on location in Vancouver with beats, eats, and more. I'm your host, Jamn Camrn, broadcasting live from MOARRR studio here on the unceded ancestral lands of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Big shouts out to TELUS STORYHIVE, who's made today's episode possible. We are joined today with Jared Davis. Jared Davis is a multidisciplinary artist based in Vancouver with an extensive background in parkour. He works across human movement, digital media, filmmaking, motion design, and music, spending his career developing each as its own discipline, and now focusing on weaving them together into a unified artistic practice. Jared's current work centers on collaboration and community, expanding his network while empowering fellow artists to develop their ideas on their own terms, outside of institutional frameworks. Welcome, Jared. Thank you for being here.
If you were just going to read my bio, I would have wrote something else in there.
I guess to start it off, I just want to hear a little bit about little Jared. You know, little Jared is in young Jared. You know,
Okay.
your formative years. Whoa, pause. I want to hear about.
You've never called me that before.
Never
Why are you doing this to me?
Why are you doing this to me now? All of a sudden, we're in front of a camera.
Little man.
What's up, little? I'm not trying to big dog you or anything. No, but in your formative years, you know how you got started. Like obviously having many creative practices and processes now, but. Were you always creatively involved? Were you always acrobatic or athletic? You know, what did the beginning look like, and how did it plant into or like grow into what you have now? Speaking of plants.
Yeah, I don't think I had like too many memories of anything artistic. It was way more centered around sports and physical activity. And then probably when I was like 17, 18, I got more interested in art. But I started with soccer. My dad put me pretty much in every sport possible, but soccer stuck and it didn't hurt my feet like hockey did.
Okay, word.
So that's the sport that I kept going to because I complained the least. And I wanted to be a pro soccer player probably up until I was 17 when I found parkour. And then something about the freedom and the community in parkour that wasn't competitive, but much more cooperative and focused on like supporting each other's progress and growth. Whereas in soccer, the higher up I got and the older I got, it kind of seemed like everybody was kind of like standoffish and cautious of you taking their position or the opportunity that was coming, and parkour didn't really have that.
Nice. Yeah, that's it. Like starting with sports and then getting into like continuing with movement practice. And nowadays, like we had a conversation not too long ago where you said that your body is your main canvas. I'm paraphrasing in a way, but it was that.
I like that.
You know, well, I'll let you have it then.
My body, the paintbrush, and the canvas.
It could be either or. It's both if you want. But that you're embodying art through parkour, right? And so with that kind of in mind. Thinking like how that sort of like transference happened, like going from this very like set, there's a lot of rules in soccer, there's a lot of rules in sports, you know, playing in a specific context, whereas parkour is so open, right? Mm-hmm. You can really do it anywhere. There's the freedom in the art form. Like how did you find that expression? Like you know what I mean?
I think that's kind of interesting because when you're talking and you referred it as like an avenue for creativity. I don't remember exactly what you said, but I had that issue with parkour when I was younger and I was doing it, that I didn't really feel like I was that creative because it was very, I mean, the whole thing around parkour is A to B. Like you have something to accomplish. You have a move set or you have a line that you're trying to do. And I think I was missing some creativity in that. I mean, other people for sure can express themselves through parkour. I found it more difficult. I was much more drawn to, funny enough, dance, but I never committed to it in the same way as I have with parkour. And I think now coming back to parkour, and it's a lot lighter and not about competition for me and not about like proving something to myself, I can consider how I want to integrate creativity from people that I've learned from, like you, Kazi, like Sav, I mean, everybody that is so involved in dance and can pretty much express themselves in a way that I find really difficult. I try to consider how I can think in the same way that I project that you guys do in parkour. So it's a little bit lighter and more like, I don't know, expressive than it's ever been. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to integrate it in a way that feels unique to me, but that's kind of the way that I'm exploring parkour now.
Got you. And what are some of those like early inklings that you have, like finding that creative freedom? Like, are there specific pathways that you can link together in a way, like kind of like with dance moves, right? Like a lot of people say foundation is freedom. So you find the sort of the template, like kind of like the Vitruvian Man of like what it is, like anatomically, this is what's happening. This is the configuration. And then you bring your experience, you bring your voice, you know?
I think what I'm facing now when I do train is like hesitation to let myself follow that kind of expression. And I think it's bringing me back to this idea that I think is so important for beginners and pretty much anybody at whatever stage you're at, is to be okay with looking stupid.
Right.
Like, you're gonna look goofy, you're gonna fail. Even when I warm up and I have almost 18 years of experience, I'm still going to mess up a jump the first couple times when my body's just warming up. And I still feel self-conscious when that happens. Like, I hope nobody's watching me.
Yeah.
I don't want them to like see me with this picture I have in my head of how I'm supposed to look, failing something and what it means about me. And noticing that that thought process is still happening is an indication for me that there's a lot of work to do around lessening the influence of that kind of concern around like criticism, or I guess it was my own self-criticism. But yeah, letting go of the potential of looking stupid or silly and just following that expression and whatever like intuitive desire comes up. I think that's what I'm trying to do more of.
I do want to come back to something that you brought up, and this was a curiosity that I had like leading into the interview, is with dance, obviously it's, you know, people see it in different ways, but music and movement at the very least. And then for others, it's music, then movement. I'm curious about your personal like consumption of music when it comes to parkour, but also like canonically, like are there like parkour songs, you know what I mean? That like,
good question.
It's like ingrained in the community. Like with breaking, for example, It's Just Begun by Jimmy Castor Bunch is like a breaking song, you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that song actually. But in parkour, it's a lot of like Nujabes
Okay.
and Jay Dilla, I feel like. A lot of the early guys, that's my generation. I don't know what I don't know what the kids are listening to now when they're training parkour, or like what is relevant for them. It's usually what you hear in a music video. No, sorry, not a music video, in a parkour video.
Right.
That heavily influences. So there's old videos that use like French rap, which I can't name any of the song titles, but like there was a period where all of us were listening to that, Army of the Pharaohs. And yeah, Gangstar.
Okay.
All that brings me back to like the early days of training parkour, listening to like a Gangstar compilation CD in my brother's car, driving from Langley to Vancouver on the weekends, every weekend. Yeah.
Dope. What is the lineage of parkour for you personally? Like, who are some of your like, you know, OGs, pioneers, people that you look to, like whether it's in the local community or, you know, in the global community?
Okay, I'm glad you're asking that. I thought you were gonna go like, what's the history of parkour?
What is the
like,
history?
Oh,
no. Personal is the universal, right? Like I want to hear about you. I could Google any of that other stuff, you know, and I did a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
My first experience of seeing parkour, I think, was, well, it's even further back than what I'm thinking about. I was gonna say Casino Royale and Sebastian Foucan, who is one of the guys who was like in the founding group of parkour. He was the guy that was getting chased on the crane by James Bond.
Word.
And my dad, me and my brother, I think we watched that movie, and my dad did some research and found that there was guys in Vancouver training parkour. And then my brother got into it first, and then I got into it after that. But influences where I first saw parkour happened like way earlier when I was living in Winnipeg. And do you know the movie Ong Bak?
No, I don't.
With I'm forgetting his name.
Oh, Kazi.
Yeah.
Kazi knows it. Kazi geeked over
Like
here.
crazy Mai Tai with chase scenes happening, and it's set in Thailand. And Tony Jaa, yeah, he's he also did The Protector, and then before that, more parkour direct was B13 or District 13, and that had David Bell, who is the founder of parkour in a way. His father is kind of the guy that like developed this and taught David, and in the movie he plays a character, and there's a chase scene at the beginning where he does this underbar through this window, and it's such an iconic shot. And I think that was the first time I saw something where it could actually be classified as like that's parkour. Of course, there's Jackie Chan and Tony Jaa, but somebody was actually like directly training that outside and then developed it into parkour and was teaching him and his friends. And yeah, there's so much you can go into from that. But
I want to go back to what you were saying about how your dad was the one that was scouting out these parkour spots, and your brother got into.
Wasn't scouting.
He wasn't scouting out, but there was a sort of introduction.
Oh yeah,
There's
one of the first days where he was showing me some of the moves that he did.
Okay.
I think he's watching, which is really nice. But I'm gonna make him a little goofy here. He was walking with me, and there was a fence.
Right.
He was talking about parkour, and he's like, "They have moves like this," and he goes to do what is now like a Kong vault, where you put your hands down and try to pull your legs through, and he clips his feet and falls flat on the ground.
Oh no!
So that's the first time I've seen it like in person. The parkour
was your dad?
Was my dad.
Okay, got you. I misunderstood what the story was that you were telling. That's awesome.
No, I like the alternate reality where my dad is scouting parkour spots with me.
Then a more open question that does not involve your dad is what were those spots that you were going to? Like, where was the community meeting? And also just letting that segue into the origin of origins. You know that I had to say, you know that we had to do it, but yeah, how that, like from your early times of meeting up in spots and then eventually into, you know, what you founded as a hub.
Yeah, I think it was West Vancouver. The guy who now owns Origins, Renee Scavington, he was teaching with a couple of the guys. I think Lucius was another guy who was at one time an owner of Origins as well. And I'm going to forget a bunch of other people, unfortunately. Some people have come and gone, but that was my introduction, was driving from Langley to West Vancouver and then taking the class. And then we would spend like all day going to downtown Vancouver and train for like 8 hours straight and just hang out.
8 hours.
Maybe do it the next day, but every single weekend, that's what it was. Yeah. And then in 2011, I believe, is when the spot that would end up being Origins was found. It was the third floor. It still is a third floor, Planet Bingo, but it looked completely different than it did now. And there was a lot of renovations to do. A huge team of people helped build Origins. And yeah, it's gone through so many iterations, of course. And Renee has done an excellent job of maintaining it and keeping the business going through COVID as well, and making sure that the community is a welcoming place where people keep wanting to come back. And especially, it's kind of like a side thing, but when I started, there was like no women who were training. Maybe one or two occasionally, but that's completely changed now. There's coaches who are women, there's leaders in the community. Vancouver has a very strong, tight-knit group of women who train together regularly, mostly at Origins and outside. And Renee has opened up another gym in Port Moody as well as a branch of Origins. So it's been expanding, and it has hubs now where I feel like it's great that it's connected to the beginning stages of the people who started parkour in the city.
looking back on that history and you're able to share about all of that, having been there, having been one of the founders, what did that look like? You know, like capturing Vancouver movement. Like, were you always kind of like involving videography into your parkour and also the process of building that space?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about like some of the horrible videos I made when I first started. And I'm so glad they're not posted anywhere now.
Yeah.
Because I took them down.
Okay, got you. Are they in a vault?
They're on mini DV tapes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
Which I need to digitize because I'm sure those things are not going to last forever.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's a process and I don't want to do it. But yeah, like horrible tripod shots of like me and my brother training in Langley and triple XXL gray sweatpants from Walmart.
That's what I'm rocking now, you know. What goes around comes around.
Dude, that's so funny. Like, I'm sure it looked weird to everybody else, but like as a parkour person, you just understood you're going to train at kids' playgrounds. You're going to have your shirt off. Yeah. Sometimes kids are going to be running around and you're going to wear sweatpants pretty much like every single day. Yeah. A bit of a lost boys complex parkour maybe, but.
Word. And so then just broadening the scope a little bit. So that's like the documentation of your parkour, very simple setup, you know. Was that your introduction into video? Or were you already capturing things prior to that?
Yeah, man. Weirdly enough, my dad was the influence on this again.
Yeah.
I remember he was editing on Final Cut Express, I think, or something, Final Cut 4. A video, he was getting into video editing at one point, and he was editing a video of this guy's documentary of Burning Man.
Okay.
Which at the time I didn't know anything about Burning Man, so I was watching the footage back and I was like, all right, this looks like a cool festival, I guess. And now I have so many friends who have gone and it's like built up to this kind of worldwide international festival that's well known. And anyway, he was editing and then started teaching me like how to use Final Cut. So I started taking the footage that I was filming for parkour and parkour training, like trying to make edits, very trash edits, of course, but it was just like kind of an obsession. It was something so new to me that I just continued to do it. And then it kind of evolved into there's better programs. I migrated to Adobe and then got fascinated with After Effects because there were so many things that I could add to my parkour videos potentially. Yeah, it kind of took that natural progression. It just like fit the lifestyle that I had and the skill of video editing and videography and photography just naturally built as a result around that.
Mm-hmm. You just happened to have these two mediums, or like the medium was parkour that you wanted to capture, and then editing. That's cool that it was like editing first and then it was expanding your videography based off of that.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. And thinking about the documentary style that you're talking about, you've also entered into, well, it was one episode for sure, All That's Left podcast. You know, I know that it was like,
I don't think I'm keeping that name.
You don't think you're keeping that?
No, because originally I wanted to call it Parkour for Life. And I think I'm going to go back to that just because I like the fact that it's kind of cheesy.
Parkour for Life. I think you should.
Because honestly, it kind of touches on this idea of like, I don't know, being a little bit more philosophical and coming at it from a completely different approach than before. And
totally.
Like what parkour has taught me about life.
Yeah.
And it plays off of that really cheesy Parkour for Life.
Yeah, totally.
You know, which I think like every forum kid kind of had that attitude growing up. And
yeah, 100%. You know. And again, like a sort of nostalgia factor, like calling it back to that thing and then looking at it from a more mature lens now. Like you're not, like in a way you're doing it ironically, but then also you've expanded it to the point where it's like you want to do parkour for the rest of your life is like one way of looking at the like homonym of it or the double entendre of it. But then also like the entirety of your life and like also the things that you learned in it, you know? Okay, so Parkour for Life is the new name. But the question that I was gonna ask is like, what was the guiding factor that took you into that, you know, into being the one that was interviewing and being the one that was asking these questions and documenting outside of a video format, you know, just pure audio?
I feel like at this point in my life, I've had enough experiences where I feel like my perspective can be helpful, especially to young men. And in parkour, it's so much still dominated by young men. And I think at what I see happening in the online sphere right now is there's just so much, like, I hate to use this term, but like toxic masculinity. And it's really irritating to see. And when I was young, like, I think I acted in ways that if I had a better male influence or I saw models of better male attitude and lifestyle, like, I would have made the changes to my life that I have in recent years much earlier on. And maybe this is like a too big picture idea for what that kind of interview series would be, but I wanted to highlight some of the other people in my life who have made those kinds of changes to their lives and give them a platform, have a conversation, and get to know them better, but also have like an archive of something where like people in the parkour community, hopefully young people, can watch and see people who are connected to the thing that they're interested in and model good behavior and give them stories of what their progresses look like. And I'm particularly aggravated by seeing podcasts where it's like this super successful person and they talk about their success and it doesn't dive particularly deep for what I'm looking for oftentimes into how they became the person they are, not just the things that they've done along the way and like the accolades that they have or the jobs that they have. I would like to know like how insecure they were young and what changed for them, who influenced them in such a way so that they can make those changes in their lives or be candid and talk about the less than proud moments. And I think there's so many people that are looking for others who can be candid like that and be real because that models reality better than somebody who seems to have it all together and who is at this stage where they're exalted in their communities or by fans or just seem to like be at a stage where they then get to have that kind of attention. I want to see somebody talk about like the not so good sides of themselves. And I'm not saying that I've done that in the episodes that I've recorded so far, but that's just the interest for me of like, I want to make something like that. So hopefully that's what it turns into.
You know, talking about parkour for life, right? Like as a name, as a lifestyle, as your own philosophies that you have found iterative process in, you know, developing for yourself. What does parkour for life look like?
I don't see a future where I'm not doing that because it keeps me so healthy. And there'll be a adjustment to preserve my body. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing like the kind of height drops I'm doing now or was doing when I'm like 50 or 60. But I intend to train my entire life. And I would ideally like to be a model for like that kind of living. And I want that to extend to my friends and my family so that they can see that there's, bless you.
Thank you.
There's a sustainable way to live. And there's a certain quality of life that it brings. And I see a lot of people that don't have like a movement practice. And it seems like it's painful. Like a lot of people complain about chronic pain, or their body just in general doesn't feel good, or they have like a malaise or something. But I think the cure to a lot of issues in people's lives is to move their body.
For sure.
Like, you are built to move, and your body lays down scar tissue and does not prioritize blood flow to certain areas. If you are not moving your body, or you become stiff, like, it's a very efficient machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the key to longevity is you just keep moving. And sitting, I do it too often, and I think that is like the worst thing you can do for your body.
For sure.
But yeah, like weight training, parkour, I'm going to be doing it my entire life, I think.
And so now, having those perspectives, like a new practice that you're bringing on or like inviting in is sharing wellness with folks. Having had these experiences, understanding your body so well, but also repair of the body. So what does that journey look like for you in the future going forward? Like, what do you desire with that?
I mean, most notably, I'm thinking of going into RMT school.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who's in the program right now at VCMT, and I think it's really common for people in like the movement arts to get into it, especially that program. But I think that there's a lot of like healing potential in human touch, and that is just another thing that helps people become more embodied. I think it's a really necessary thing right now, and a lot of people are not connected to their bodies in any way, and they don't experience non-sexual touch very often either, especially as people age. And massage therapy is just one of those things that has always been at the forefront of my mind when I'm really connected to my body. And now when I project into the future and I think about what I have as like a stable income mixed with something that matches my lifestyle really well, that just keeps coming back around, and it feels good. So I think that's what I'm going to explore next.
Nice. That's really interesting, especially again, like coming from like so much embodiment in your practice and in your body, like how that transfers over to somebody else. Do you see yourself like also inviting in a sort of like programming for people, or is it just the transference of energy through massage? Like, would you want to share verbally, even on like Parkour for Life,
Yeah, for sure. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but like you were saying in the bio, I think there's a keen interest on integration at this stage in my life. So that's kind of the question that I'm having right now, is like, what does that picture of me look like? And how do I maintain all these interests and not feel like I need to let something go?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a year ago I had that feeling of like, I have so many things I'm interested in, and I feel like I'm not devoting myself to them. But the more I thought about that, the more I realized like, I don't think that's particularly true. I think there's more things that I can change in my character so that I can allow these areas to have more of my time and attention, so I can actually remain devoted to them and then unify them into like one solidified picture of who I am. And maybe not be too caught up in the identity of that, but I feel like that is a much better answer than being like, I need to let go of these things because I've come around to them for a reason. And I don't think that I'd be doing myself a service by like cutting out parkour or cutting out music or anything like video, photo. I think it all just is making up that picture of who I am. And I'll be happy to look back when I'm old to say, I stuck with those things because they were an important component of who I am.
That brings us to the end of our interview today, but I do have some fun rapid fire questions because again, we love to have fun around here. So start it off. You can answer this however you want, whatever metric. Backflip or front flip?
Backflip.
You can only listen to one song for the rest of your life. What song are you choosing?
Oh, good question. That's the hardest question to answer. Rapid fire. I think it's Nujabes MOARRR dance. I think
Okay.
it's called. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
All right. Impactful quote you've heard or read recently.
It's actually one that my dad reminded me of, and I think it has links to Buddhism, but it's also, I'm pretty sure, like a sports saying. And it's never too high, never too low.
Never too high, never too low.
Yeah. Setting expectations, I find.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like just over the history of parkour, one signature shoe
Oh,
in the world of parkour.
Kalenji.
Kalenji, is that what you got on right now?
No, they don't.
No.
They don't exist anymore. I have a pair in a box that
Okay.
I've worn through, and it's like my parkour totem kind of.
Right.
Yeah, they were just this fat sneaker that, like, if you didn't train outside very often because you didn't have good landings, you threw on a pair of Kalenjis and you could stick almost any rail pre.
Sick. I love that. All right, go-to recovery practice for post-parkour / intense workout sesh.
Recovery. I can't say the full thing what I do for my routine, but
Right.
lying on my carpet, I have a big rug in my living room, and I just lay there for like an hour and stretch.
Easy.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Dude, classic. Can't go wrong with stretching.
Yeah.
Okay, dream project to shoot, unlimited budget and resources.
Oh, you're bringing up like an old project that I've always wanted to do, but I haven't done. Do you know the like Paukwatsi is it? And like Samsara,
I know Samsara.
Baraka,
Yeah.
like that style. I've always wanted to shoot a video to this one Fortet song called Plastic People. And I always imagined that it would have like human repetition in it, people getting onto like subways and like time lapses. I mean, in that kind of style of those films. So unlimited budget, I think that was what I would do.
Okay, got you. All right, dream guest on All That's Left podcast. Well, FK, All That's Left podcast.
Dream guest? I don't know, because I pretty much just want to do like friends and people within my circle. So I don't really have a dream guest. Yeah.
All right, got you. Well, I'm your friend and in your circle, so
You're next.
maybe I'll be up there. You'll be interviewing me. We'll switch seats.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll do it here.
And finally, at MOARRR Studios, shouts out. Where can we find you to keep updated on all that's Jared?
I guess my Instagram, Jared C. Davis.
Got you.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. It just feels like another Tuesday, just hanging out. We could have been at Taco Fino again, easy enough.
Instead, we got this pie.
We got this pie. Look at this pie and this beautiful cat. Awesome. Thank you everyone for tuning into the live stream. Appreciate you being here. And again, thank you, Jared, for being here. If you're a creative in Vancouver, dancer, artist, musician, etc., have a story to share, scan the QR code around somewhere around here or in the screen area on the edited version of this episode. Fill out the form and you could possibly be a guest on this show. Eating pie, just like Jared C. Davis. Shout out to MOARRR Studio once again. We're shooting today. Shout out to TELUS STORYHIVE for powering today's episode. I'm your host, Jamn Camrn. You've been watching STORYHIVE on location in Vancouver with beats, eats, and more.